Okay, guys, so as you know, I love going super deep into astrology, okay? And so today I was thinking, I'm like, how can I help people really understand their Venus on a deep level, okay? So as you know, Venus is about your self-worth and it is about love, what's familiar to you on some level because that's how your parents showed you love or showed love to each other, okay? The way that your self-worth develops, obviously, is by the experiences that you have with your parents, obviously your whole birth chart. You can say it's the experience that your parents gave you in life and, you know, how they kind of set off certain behaviors within you, right? And so when it comes to Venus, it's what you enjoy and how you view love now in life. And so, um, I want to give you a few examples depending on the sign that your Venus is in, how your self-worth or what you feel like was really encouraged and feels good for you was developed, and also maybe how your parents relationship dynamic was, right? So with Venus and Aries, like you might have had a parent, and if you have like a toxic parent, this probably was this was encouraged, the characteristics I'm about to say, by the more positive, the more stable parent, because I know, some of us have mommy issues, some of us have daddy issues, right? Or it's like the dynamic you experienced in the relationship with your parents, right? So with Venus and Aries, you could have had a parent that really pushed you physically to your limit. Like, yeah, my boy's gonna play football, or my girl is going to be on a sports team, or somebody who really encouraged independence. Like, you can do it yourself. Like, no, like they weren't, basically your parents or one of your parents wasn't holding your hand all the time, right? They encouraged strength on some level, or the enjoyment in fighting something on an unhealthy level, right? Your parents could have been constantly bickering. There could have been the element of animosity in your house, yelling, war, or like literally somebody cutting each other. Your Venus is in Taurus. This is an easy one because I see this all the time with Venus in Taurus. Like, on some level, your parents could have encouraged in a healthy way, right? Things, right? They gave you the latest PlayStation, the latest gadgets to play with. They provided comfort for you. Food, like your favorite food. They fluffed up your pillows. On the negative level, maybe your parents could have like been very possessive. They encouraged hoarding habits, or being very stubborn and stuck to certain ways that didn't allow for growth, right? Or there, and if Venus is conflicted, right? Because you also have to look at aspects, and this is where you can get into, details of literally the dynamic. Between your parents' relationship and the relationship with you and how it affected you. If you have Venus a square Pluto or opposite Pluto, there was a parent that was probably toxic that betrayed the other parent, or that, on some level you were in between, like, trying to figure out who cheated on who, and like, hey, look at your parents, look at your dad's text messages, who is he texting, like that kind of thing. And so, you unconsciously now think love equates to betrayal and pain, and it's kind of scary as an adult, right? But there's other Venus signs examples that I want to get into. Like, I have Venus in Sagittarius, for example, and although I didn't grow up with a lot of material things or the latest of nothing, I did grow up with the freedom to expand my mind in any way I wanted. Like, my dad encouraged me to believe in whatever I wanted. Like, not, he did it, even though we grew up Catholic, he encouraged me. He's like, you don't have to believe in that. You can be a Buddhist, and I don't care as long as you believe in something. Like, that type of energy. And so, I do find enjoyment in the freedom that I have to develop my spiritual truth, and develop knowledge on a deep level. He always encouraged deep thinking, and he had a philosophical way of life that I picked up on, that then helped me develop my own self-worth about things, right? Because Venus tells you your self-worth and what you enjoy, right? So, if you had Venus in Capricorn, right? Maybe your parents like ran their relationship like a business, and Venus in Capricorn, like, there's almost like always an anxiety of what are people going to think, and your parents stay together maybe because, like, of a societal expectation, a very restrictive religious thing that they had to, like, they couldn't divorce, very traditional. Or maybe on the one-on-one relationship with one of your parents, they could have really encouraged you to um, you know, work hard, or because they weren't available and you had to take on the role of maybe the responsible person, they encouraged responsibility within you, right? It's a very strict Venus sign, so your love language has a lot to do with being somewhat restrictive and disciplined. Maybe because of lack of the funsy vibes. You didn't have a lot of funsy vibes, and so you enjoy not funsy vibes now. You know what I mean? So, anyways, what I want you guys to get from this is look at your Venus sign, and if you want to understand it on a deeper level, think back to what your parents encouraged, and what they applauded within you, what they praised, because Venus has a lot to do with the development of your self-worth, and obviously your parents and what they encouraged, or what they influenced you, or how they influenced you, is going to help you develop your self-worth. And also look at how their dynamic was. Were your parents very progressive and like they lived in two different households, or was there a parent that was very like delusional and like artsy fartsy and encouraged artsy fartsiness in you? Was there a parent that was there cheating and betrayals? Very Pluto. And obviously, if I can look at your birth chart if you want to book a reading, so we can get into the intricacies of your chart, because aspects and house placements will also tell you a lot. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video so you guys could reflect and think, so you guys can have more meaning to your charts.